With global climate change becoming more of an issue every single day, it's becoming even more apparent here in my home of BC. More specifically, we've seen an increase in the number of forest fires out in the interior, as well as the devastating floods in Abbotsford last year. But what about the people that live in Surrey? They don't have anything to worry about, do they? Well, believe it or not, Surrey is actually home to several floodplains that you need to be made aware of, especially if you're considering moving here. But have no fear, I'm going to cover everything you need to know about where these floodplains are and where you should and shouldn't be moving in Surrey right after this. What's going on, guys? Alex Dunbar here from the Dunbar Real Estate Group and Remax Treeline Realty based out of the Surrey area. And in this video, I'm going to be telling you everything you need to know about where the floodplains in Surrey are and what you need to avoid. But before I get into it, if you want to help me educate others on the floodplains in Surrey, I'll ask that you do one thing for me, and that's to hit the like button so that the algorithm will push this video out to other individuals who want to learn more just like you. If this is your first time on my channel, I make relevant real estate videos on the BC real estate market and showcase communities here in the Lower Mainland. So if that's something you're interested in seeing more of, I suggest you subscribe to my channel and hit the bell so you're notified whenever I put out a new video. And with that, let's dive right in. So as the climate changes, coastal areas everywhere can expect more frequent and severe flooding from storm surges and the sea level rising. And the city of Surrey is one of these areas. There's a few rivers and floodplains that you need to make sure you're aware of in the city of Surrey before you think about moving here. And for the most part, they are located in farmland and not as much residential housing in the areas that could potentially be flooded. However, there are still some areas you're going to want to avoid. The coastal floodplain area spans 20% of Surrey's land. And in the case of a flood, over 2,500 Surrey residents would be impacted. So what I'm going to do now is share my screen with you so I can walk you through exactly where these areas are. So first of all, I just want to start it off and give you a brief outline of Surrey, the neighborhoods, the communities, and which specific areas we're going to be looking at. So if you take your attention up to the top of the screen, we have the Fraser River. This is going to be one point we're going to focus on. We then have the Serpentine River, which essentially outlines the Serpentine area right here. We have the 𝐁𝐿𝐴𝐿 River, which you can just vaguely see, which is going to run through Serpentine. And then we also have the 𝐁𝐴𝐿𝐿 River, which isn't as major of a floodplain flood zone, but that's going to run down here through the Hazelmere, Pacific Douglas areas, as well as a little bit of the King George corridor. And then we won't be discussing White Rock as this is a Surrey video. But a couple of the key areas again that I want you to keep your eyes on. So we have the northern point of Fraser Heights, as well as a portion of Port Kells. We have Bolivar Heights and Bridgeview. So these are a couple areas that we're going to be focusing on, as well as part of the Fleetwood Tynehead area through Cloverdale and Serpentine, and then Crescent Beach, which is a big one. And as I previously mentioned, we get a little bit down here into Hazelmere and Pacific Douglas, as well as the King George corridor. And just for your information, the border of Surrey and Langley is 196th right here, but we're just going to be focusing on Surrey for this video. So if you head over to the City of Surrey's website, you can look at their flood preparedness page, which has a pretty good map here. I will leave a link down in the description if you want to check it out. But here are kind of those primary areas that I mentioned where we're going to be worried about the flooding, and then just a little bit here down at the 𝐁𝐴𝐿𝐿 River. But let's actually dive into Cosmos, which is available to the public on the City of Surrey's website, because this is going to give us a lot better way to envision where these areas are. Again, I will leave a link to this as well in the description in case you want to check it out for yourself. But let's start at the northern end. So we've got the Bridgeview and Bolivar Heights area, as well as just touching into Fraser Heights, and then up into the Port Kells area a little bit just south of Barnston Island. So if we take a little bit of a deeper look in here, the good thing is that there's not a ton of residential properties in this area. This is primarily, they have some train tracks, they've got industrial areas, they've got sawmills, auto wreckage yards, other things of this nature. So they were smart about going about this, but essentially this is the south Fraser Perimeter Road, also known as Highway 17, but it's everything that's north of it. But something to keep in mind is that if it does flood, that road is going to get covered up. It is a road that you can take to get over to the Patella Bridge or into Surrey City Centre sometimes when, again, depending where you're coming from, it can be quicker to avoid some traffic rather than coming down Fraser Highway, such as if you are coming from Cloverdale or areas like that. Then we have, as I mentioned, the Bridgeview and Bolivar Heights areas. So not a ton of housing in this area, not a ton of density, primarily detached houses. It's also the lowest price point for detached housing in Surrey anyways, for a good reason. I typically advise my clients to stay away from here. But just so you can see, there is some detached housing in these areas. If you're thinking about purchasing there for whatever reason that is, just be aware. Moving on, we've got the Serpentine area essentially, which also runs up across Fraser Highway into the Fleetwood Tynehead area. These are some other areas you're going to want to be made aware of. The good thing is a lot of this land is ALR. There's not a ton of residential properties. Anything that is typically massive homes on farms. So unless that's what you're looking to purchase, then you're probably going to be okay. But again, just want to double check this map before you make a purchasing decision in these areas. As we follow it down here past Colebrook Road, again, getting into the Cloverdale and Serpentine areas, we can see the Serpentine River as well as the 𝐁𝐿 River that I mentioned before. And that's where you can see the majority of the flooding is going to take place. So obviously this is a key spot that you want to be made aware of. This is Highway 99 that's going to take you out across the bridge, and one way to get to Vancouver, especially if you're coming from South Surrey, that would be underwater as well, given the fact that we did actually have flooding. So keep that in mind. It also kind of comes over and touches into a portion of Morgan Creek. So there are some areas where you can see different lots and housing that you're gonna, again, want to be careful of, especially anything that is kind of right along the lines, because these aren't hard and fast lines, right? Like this flooding can still come outside of those areas. This is just the highest risk. So anything in those areas, again, you can take a deeper dive into it, deeper look to see if the house that you're interested in or the neighborhood that you're interested in is going to be affected by that in any way. Also kind of cuts through the King George corridor, as I mentioned, which you can take a look back on the map. And then coming out into the Crescent Beach area. So these are expensive homes. None of them actually have basement suites because of the fact that they are at high risk for flooding. I'm not exactly sure why they have so many homes in this area. I don't think that was very well planned out, but they are quite expensive. So if you are considering moving to this area, just be made aware that it is at high risk of flooding. If we do have floods, you know, there is a good chance your property may be affected. Moving on to our last couple of portions here. As we come a little further south, we have the Campbell River, which will impact some of these areas along around 8th Avenue between 4th and 8th. We have the Glades right here, which is a beautiful park and garden maintained by the city of Surrey. Definitely go check that out if you get a chance, but that is going to be submerged underwater if there is any flooding. We have King George corridor kind of just off to the left side here, as well as Pacific Douglas, which has some beautiful homes and is close to the border, but just be made aware. And as you can see on the left hand side, this whited out spot is actually White Rock, so it isn't going to show up on this map because White Rock isn't actually part of Surrey. But hopefully that gives you a better idea of where the flooding is. Again, you can use Cosmos. I have a link for it in the description. You can also head over to the flood risk preparedness and take a look at that as well, which again is going to give you a better idea of what you should be avoiding and what you should be made aware of in case of floods in the future. So that pretty much summarizes which areas in the city of Surrey and which rivers you should be wary of if you're looking to purchase there, or maybe you already live there. I lived in the city of Surrey for over 25 years and didn't realize that they had all these different floodplains, so don't feel bad about that. But there actually is some silver lining at the end of the day, as Surrey has one of Canada's best flood management systems in the entire country. Of course, you can't solely rely on the city of Surrey to protect you. However, they have put some measures in place to give you a little bit more comfort. But that's about going to do it for my video today. So if you did get any value out of this, I'll ask that you do one thing for me, and that's to hit that like button. And if you are interested in seeing any more videos similar to this one, as well as community tours across Surrey, Langley, and the rest of the Fraser Valley, I suggest you subscribe to my channel and hit the bell so you're notified whenever I put out a new video. And if you are thinking about making the move to Surrey or any of the surrounding cities and communities, you can scroll down and book a call with me so we can make sure you avoid those flood areas. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.